built on the culture of knowledge and innovation to help advance the financial success of their clients. AllianceBernstein.com. Alliance Bernstein is not affiliated with National Public Radio.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Miles of debris piles, the pinch of the property tax increase, the closure of more community gyms. We've got plenty to launch into with Mayor Freddie O'Connell, who joins us each month, but typically not so much has happened since the last time Mayor O'Connell was here, which was at the beginning of the year. Listen, though, the priority here today is your questions, not ours. The phone lines are open now at 615-760-2000. You can also join the conversation at the video stream that's on our YouTube page, the WPLN YouTube page. Just leave your question or comment in the chat, and we'll try to work it in live here on air. But that phone number, 615-760-2000. We'll also end the hour by answering a Curious Nashville question about what looks like an underground bunker on a corner of Nashville International Airport property by that gold box of a building on Thompson Lane. Mayor O'Connell, are you familiar with this corner of BNA?
I know the area you're talking about. I have not seen the bunker.
Well, we're going to take a close look here at the end of the hour when you leave.
Look forward to it.
Well, welcome back. Let's start with the storm. You know, there's an incredible amount of debris on Nashville streets in some spots, though many spots have been
The debris
cleared.
is increasing and decreasing very quickly right after, right? I mean, it was crazy to be out with Hands on Nashville crews there that first week after kind of the emergency process had played out. And, you know, we covered 5 homes with our group of, you know, maybe a little over a dozen volunteers, and just the sheer amount of material we got in a single Bordeaux neighborhood from 5 homes, put it on the curb. But the nice part was we got 150 crews out all over the city. And I guess what I would encourage people to think about, if they still see any debris anywhere, is that's ideally future reimbursements from FEMA. The NDOT crews are out there literally weighing it, assessing the amount of tree damage that was done, because that actually goes into our FEMA reimbursement formula.
You're saying, let's say a house is like, you know what, let's have the tree guys just chop this up, take it, haul it away. You'd almost rather them leave it so it sort of shows, really?
I mean, frankly, our preference would be leave it, because we've got people. They're hitting every part of the county, and they're making multiple sweeps, and will be continuing to do so for a few more weeks, because we are trying to assess literally the weight of the amount of damage that was out there.
Well, you know, I think, I guess already we've seen that federal emergency management agency is going to reimburse the city for a lot of things, and some nonprofits, other organizations. Are we starting to lose hope that there's going to be individual assistance from this disaster?
We haven't lost hope. FEMA is here on the ground right now. We are trying to be actively engaged with them. We know that while Nashville was among the hardest hit communities in Tennessee, that we weren't the only one. And so there probably is a need for individual assistance well beyond the boundaries of Nashville and Davidson County. We're going to continue making the case for the importance of an IA reimbursement process from FEMA.
What would people need to be doing right now to be in line for that? Like, do they have to have made an insurance claim already, or it actually, if you have made a claim, you would be excluded from such a group? Keep receipts, hold off on making repairs? What do you do?
No, I think the biggest thing is document. If you have a critical repair to your home, you know, you shouldn't avoid making a roof repair until you've heard from FEMA. But I definitely would encourage people to go to FEMA.gov to look at sort of the recommendations. The biggest thing we're saying locally through Office of Emergency Management Protocol is keep receipts, keep documentation. If you make a claim somewhere, record that claim, because you may be eligible for some type of assistance later.
Where is all of this debris going?
We have 4 sites that are sort of aggregate sites where after they literally have monitors going around with these trucks. And
they as in FEMA?
No, it's NDOT.
Okay.
So NDOT
as in
has
the city has someone going with these contractors who've been brought in from out of town.
Yeah, so they are
those big
taking
double
it to,
trucks.
Right, exactly, which I've seen all over the city.
All over.
And they have 4 sites where they're kind of bringing all the material, and then ultimately they're they're chipping it up. And so at that point, it can go into mulch or whatever else.
Yeah. And is there any way to, let's say for the conservation-minded among us, is there a way to make sure that goes to good use?
That is an excellent question. I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to, just straight from that to landfills, but we'll follow up with you and your listeners and see what we can share.
Sounds good. Well, what questions do you as listeners have? The mayor is with us to give answers. If not now, then as his office often does after the show, they'll put it up on the socials. The number is 615-760-2000, or you can just drop it in the chat of the video stream, youtube.com/@WPLN. The head of a lead city department in the ice storm response has resigned, though no reason was given. Diana Alarcon led NDOT that you've been referencing, kind of the primary city agency that was helping clear trees, pick up debris, I think. Was she asked to resign for performance reasons?
Nothing related to the storm. I think this has just been a conversation, and I would say it this way. We routinely, both in our office throughout Metro, have leaders who make decisions on a personal basis, and beyond that, kind of a respect her decision, respect her privacy, and don't make a habit of commenting on personnel matters related to departures.
Got it. NES is obviously where a lot of the focus has been. Nashville Electric Service. Republican leaders in the legislature have even suggested NES would be better off maybe like a co-op like other utilities around Middle Tennessee. Could you be supportive of like a major restructuring after how NES handled the storm? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, so I've talked to some regional city and county mayors who are in NES's service area, and I could absolutely see some way for us to look at a governance process that included some regional participation, right? And so I think it would make a lot of sense for that to be service area rather than, broad county or state appointees, because this is a local municipal utility. That's not something I would probably be looking to change, but I think there are a lot of conversations underway right now. You've probably heard the NES board is engaged their own independent assessment process. I'll be
separate from yours.
Separate from ours. They had a board meeting, I think, this morning, and they want to move quickly to do some very rapid, intense internal review. So I'm interested in seeing that. And then you probably are aware Monday we had Governor Bredesen chair our Winter Storm Commission. That does have NES in the mix for, kind of overall winter storm response accountability. And so want to look at whether one or both of those entities produces something that is a recommendation we should take action on.
Well, in your view, there were obviously shortcomings. Most of what people are upset about is like how long it took to get power back or something. But obviously, it was the biggest ice storm we've seen, the biggest outage they'd ever seen. You look at the call volume. How could anyone have managed that? So my question to you is like, what do you see as the true shortcoming? Yeah,
I'd say that's why for us the Winter Storm Commission is twofold, right? It's the acknowledgement. It's the acknowledgement that this was an extraordinary, for Nashville, winter weather event. In fact, very few communities in Tennessee or elsewhere had the amount of ice we had. There was a lot of snowfall elsewhere throughout the winter storm footprint as you got further up north. Nashville happened to be uniquely covered in freezing rain. I mean, we saw a couple of communities in Mississippi, but I think the acknowledgement of that this was unprecedented. It wasn't just NES that had an unprecedented amount. According to NDOT so far, and combine that with parks and the assessments they've done, this is probably the largest amount of tree damage we've ever seen simultaneously in the city. I mean, that alone is a huge impact. Now bring it to the 230,000 power outages. We wound up being able to open schools sooner than many other communities across Tennessee. Once NES did get back to that kind of over 99% of restorations mark, we've been still hearing about people having a hard time with their internet providers, right? I mean, we moved pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things to get power restored. But I'll say from our standpoint in the mayor's office, there were things we kind of learned at the midpoint that, okay, if you all were doing this and if you had just said you were doing this, we probably would have adjusted some of our public guidance sooner. And I think that's where we're still looking at it.
I see. Well, just a couple more things on this, and then we've got phone calls coming in at 615-760-2000. One is there's been so much talk about burying power lines after this.
Yeah.
And, boy, you get people on all sides of that thing. Is it really worth the cost?
It can be. I think I'm expecting both NES's process and ours might surface some discussion of both the utility burial process that is expensive but possible, and there are, like anything, trade-offs and some cost-benefit analysis you want to do, but also the tree trimming elements, right? Because in general, what you want to do is have a grid that's as resilient as possible in as many scenarios as possible. The hardest time to maintain that resilience is when you have a broad coverage event like this that really did coat the entire city in ice, unlike the 2020 or 2023 tornadoes or the windstorms in 2020, which I think was the last time we really saw a huge surge in power outages into the six figures. This included prolonged temperatures that were really low, in some cases perilously low for days at a stretch. And I think, you want to look at all of these scenarios. Can we also do more, solar and storage, be more in putting our grid with local power generation so that we keep that element closer to ground so we're not needing to rely on these big elements that are above ground for everything we're doing, generator availability and capacity. There's a lot of different approaches that we saw touched on in the recovery process that I think I'm eager to get more into the recommendations. We've looked at it, though. I mean, looking at, from the 8 years I spent representing the urban core, anytime we had a significant redevelopment initiative, my first question was, okay, is this an opportunity to have the utility burial process play out? Because especially in denser areas, you can typically get that cost incorporated into the overall cost of redevelopment.
Yeah. Last thing on this, unless callers want to talk about it, there have been grumblings about kind of oddly high electric bills from this period from NES. I happen to know of a particular house without power for 13 days, got the latest bill that covered most of that outage, and it was like 25% higher than the prior year, and they had gas heat. My question to you is, like, a lot of anecdotes are sort of floating around, but have you heard anything that actually gives you concern about NES billing?
Not yet. We've had a lot of interaction early with them about work that they're doing internally to try to avoid any ratepayer increases as a direct result of the storm. I think that work is happening along the way, and I know you've got some of the Metro Water team in here to answer some of the Curious Nashville stuff because I saw them in the hallway. But I'll say it this way. We were able to work with Metro Water to do a thing that there is a regulatory obstacle on the NES side. We can do a one-time credit because Metro Water encouraged people to drip faucets for a long time, during that. We can offer truly a kind of, hey, if you were dripping 4 faucets for this many days, how much cubic volume of water was that? And so we can kind of offer a blanket credit for that. That's what we've worked with Metro Water to make available to their ratepayers. We can't really do that same thing with NES. The regulatory
you don't really own
framework,
NES.
Well, and they're governed by TVA and some other things in terms of what they can do with rates. But I've not yet seen anything that suggests that there was some unusual billing-related scenario related specifically to the ice storm. However, I mean, my hope is that this independent assessment process will, if there is anything there, will surface that. I think this is also that chance for NES to redouble their efforts as a customer service organization. Yeah. I think that's what I think a lot of their customers are going to be looking for that.
Yeah. Can you at least get sort of an answer on that point from NES?
Well, their broad answer so far is, it's kind of we're not aware of anything. That's where those specific episodes. I mean, I've worked through when I was again a council member. I worked through a lot of issues with homeowners, and it turns out there are some moments, and we saw this in the storm too. Water, electric. There's a point at which you as a homeowner become responsible for something at the level of the weatherhead, right? Same thing is true for water. When the pipe leaves the street, you've typically got an obligation there. Now, there are programs out there. You can get insurance for that water element. There's a lot of scenarios, though, where homeowners, property owners have some measure of responsibility for what happens on their end. And I've dug through a lot of these, and sometimes you'll find like, oh, the leak was actually a homeowner or property owner responsibility. So I don't know. I mean, anecdotally, you kind of have to look at these on a case-by-case basis.
Let's work on a quick call before we take our first break. And, it's kind of a one-off here. But Claire in Sylvan Park, thank you for waiting patiently, first of all. You're on with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Go ahead.
Claire, are you there?
Hi there. Hi, Mayor. Yeah.
Hi.
Well, I'm an older adult, and my night vision isn't quite as good. And I noticed you have these wonderful luminescent stripes on 46 approaching Charlotte, but there are so many roads all around Nashville, and since we don't have sidewalks and curbs, a lot of times the edge of the road is hard to see.
Yeah.
And even the yellow line is hard to see because the paint has faded so much. So I guess what I would love to see is some iridescent new road striping, especially around the edges, because I drive a Prius, which is a shorter car, and these big SUVs with really bright headlights. So I have to look at the edge of the road to see where I am. And if there's no stripe and there's no curb, it's hard to see.
No, I appreciate that so much, Claire. And I will say, I grew up with my mom also having some night vision issues, especially, when driving, wanting to find those elements for safety. But I think all of us who travel at night when it's inclement weather of any kind, if it's just raining outside and you're on a local road or the interstate, sometimes it's just like, okay, where are the lane markers? We continue to have these conversations about paving technology. Our Nashville Department of Transportation does occasionally, even near their headquarters, experiment with some stuff on surface, and so continue to look for those opportunities to get there. As we kind of do some of the corridor redevelopment work with the Choose How You Move Transit Improvement Program, we're hopeful to be kind of setting the standard for best practices for overall corridor and roadway and sidewalk design and implementation. But really understand your point and want to try to make our roadways as safe as they can be for everybody who's using them. So thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. And Mayor, can you do anything about the arms race to have the brightest headlights? Because it seems like they're getting so bright. If you have an older car like me, I'd say it's not fair.
Blake, I regret to inform you we do not have any local regulatory authority for the car industry.
We'll bring on somebody else. Mayor Freddie O'Connell is with us. We've got another segment. We've got a few people waiting on the phone. Timothy, Barbara, we'll get to you when we get back, but we need to take our first break. You got questions for the mayor? The number's 615-760-2000. You can also ask if you're in the chat of our video stream at youtube.com/@WPLN. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Freddie is a man of class. We want Freddie for a leader. All stand and raise your champagne glass. We want Freddie for a leader.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com. And Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, helping donors make more possible through the power of community giving. More at cfmt.org. And Frist Art Museum presenting In Her Place, Nashville Artists in the 21st Century, featuring works by an intergenerational group of women artists shaping Nashville's visual arts community through April 26th. FristArtMuseum.org.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. Norwegian writer-director Joachim Trier is obsessed with how actors communicate in close-ups.
I don't look at a monitor when I shoot. I sit next to the camera and I look at them with my own eyes, trying to judge what's happening, how I can help them.
Trier and his film Sentimental Value are now up for 9 Academy Awards. We'll talk with him next time on Here and Now.
This afternoon at 1 on 90.3 WPLN News.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. We're getting answers from Mayor Freddie O'Connell. That's why he comes in. And we did have a question come in about, no, it was from me.
I don't know.
It was my question.
Count that as coming in.
Where does all the debris that's been mulched up go? What's going on? So we do have an answer.
As I suspected, we do have a lot of that going to a place that does repurpose it for other uses. A majority of it is going to Living Earth, which does mulch it.
Okay. Let's get to some calls because they're coming in. We're going to go now to Timothy. Timothy in Hendersonville. You're on This Is Nashville. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you for the time. One of the things is I may be from Hendersonville, but I love Percy Warner Park.
Yeah.
I know it was severely damaged because of the ice and snow.
Yeah.
A lot of the trees have come down. I know it's going to take a while, but here's a suggestion. It'd be nice instead of all that wood from the trees that are about 100 years old being hauled away, to maybe let local craftsmen, maybe at the park, go off and show their work, redesign them into benches, and start leaving the trees back there as benches and let people donate the funds to have their name put on a bench. And they can actually watch the craftsmen make the bench, and then they can start putting around the path so we don't have to haul it all away, and it'll actually generate money for the park as opposed to take it away.
Timothy, I love that idea. I've had some really interesting inquiries about access to wood for exactly that kind of purpose, but I really love the parks-focused idea there because you know this from being in the Warner Parks. There are some really beautiful vistas and some benches there, and the opportunity to work with local craftspeople in particular is a really great one. So I'm going to take that back and see what Parks and NDOT between them think to see if we can get some of that wood for the purposes of crafting. I think that's a really great idea. Thanks.
Yeah, Timothy, you've been heard. The number 615-760-2000. One question that came in through the YouTube video stream at the WPLN YouTube page from Underwood NR, which might be Nate Underwood, who I know. Hope it is. Would love to see the tree debris chipped up, composted, and available to local gardeners. Any way that there could be, there's going to be so much to get rid of.
So Living Earth is doing some of that, and I think they're actually, I don't know if they're giving it away, but I think there is, to your point, going to be so much of this, but I think some of it is also going to be lower cost than typical, kind of market for mulch. But again, we can get some detailed answers on that.
Gotcha.
But that it is going into material that we expect to be available locally in some cases.
Mayor, some feel you have been less than sympathetic of property owners who've seen enormous property tax increases because the value of their property has gone up so much.
Blake, let me just stop there and say the reason some feel that way has a lot to do with the fact that a local news affiliate chopped up a conversation we had about this issue and probably presented things in a way that would make it seem as though I was unsympathetic to this.
Are you sympathetic?
Of course I'm sympathetic.
Yeah.
This has been something that has been a hallmark of my entire, not just growing up in Nashville, but period of public services, focusing on the most local things from, this goes back to when on Liber Radio, we used to highlight Small Business Saturday and bring in local business owners and operators and have them talk about the importance of keeping dollars in the local economy. We continue to do this. Our staff many times over in the mayor's office has focused on our small business landscape and encouraged people to shop locally. This is, we know that in the effort to run a city where we are seeing historic lows in crime and historic performance from our students in public schools, that it does take all of us working together, particularly property owners, as the largest form of revenue. And I hope everybody out there knows that the only reason that your property taxes might have gone up over the past year is if your property value went up substantially, and that we have set the lowest property tax rate in the history of Metro, and that we are producing performance that we hope to see on the basis of where that rate might have gotten adjusted. It was only to account for the 5-year impact of inflation, which also impacts Metro. So, of course, we are sympathetic because we know that the cost of governing is going up just like the cost of doing business.
We got this message on that note from Peter Curlin of the Dark Horse Theater.
I own a small arts venue on Charlotte that we purchased about 35 years ago, and our property tax just keeps going up because the building valuation is increased. But those building valuations don't mean anything unless we want to sell the building. What we really want to do is continue operating it as a theater, and right now the property tax it alone is more than the entire annual budget for our theater group. And I just don't know how you think arts organizations can survive if the property values are treated the way they are and the taxes go up so fast. Ours tripled over the last couple of years, and I know other venues downtown that's been an issue. Thank you.
Yeah, is there anything that the city could plan to do to help people pay that bill, lower the tax burden if there's kind of special circumstances?
It's very challenging. The state framework for how local jurisdictions in Tennessee have any hope of getting revenue means that Peter identified it on the front end, right? He gets it. They did this over 30 years ago, and I think that's the hardest part. If you're purchasing property to run an independent arts organization where you're not necessarily looking for it to be spectacularly profitable, but the area around you is a business district that is becoming much more successful, right? The redevelopment of Charlotte through that corridor, I know exactly where Dark Horse is and been to many shows there. It's on the one hand, it's exciting to see the area around Richland Park become full of all these great amenities, but know that Dark Horse has been there for a long time. I'd love for the state to give us something that was, some other states have these things that are for long-term residents. You can kind of, and we have a very limited property tax freeze and relief program for people of a certain age and income, disabled veterans. Those are great programs, but it'd be great to have something that was helped maybe put a lid on the speculative impact of some of this, right? Because for Peter on Charlotte, which is redeveloping and property values all around him are becoming like his, more valuable. Same thing on Broadway. I mean, the sheer transactions that are happening there for people who are able and willing to sell are just eye-popping. And so we know, I guess, a couple things. One, the best thing any of us can do to support our local businesses and local arts organizations is go support them, right? Buy tickets, show up, don't just talk about how much you love them on social media. Go support them.
There you go.
That's a big thing. The other thing I would say is we're doing our best, and I would say, having been a former board member of the Belcourt Theater, which similarly took control of its own fate years ago by buying the building outright from somebody who was an independent owner. They've been able to use their existing footprint to expand, to add a third screen without a ton of expensive reconstruction redevelopment. They've, again, control a little bit of their destiny with the parking footprint they have and finding some opportunities to allow film goers to come in, but also for it to be parking for Hillsborough Village. And so there are some tools in the toolkit for many property owners, not for all of them. And then meanwhile, we continue to look at the funding process through Metro Arts. We continue to look at small business incentive programs that we've operated in Metro for a long time. And so we're trying to tackle it from that. How can we support you knowing that we have some real constraints on other relief efforts? And then, too, I would say we're trying to, across the board, offer as many pieces of a comprehensive affordability framework as we can while we support our favorite local businesses and arts organizations.
I'm Blake Farmer. This is Nashville. We're going to go to the phones because we've got a lot of people waiting. Barbara in Nashville, you're on with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Freddie. How are you?
Hi, Barbara.
I am calling about Fort Negley and wondering how much of the renovation will also encompass the old Sound Stadium.
Yes. Great question. So for anybody who wasn't there last week, we just broke ground on phase one of a master plan for Fort Negley. And so Barbara knows this just like anybody who probably spent any period of time in Nashville. The first baseball games I went to were at the old Greer Stadium, right there in the shadow of Fort Negley on one side of the hill with the Adventure Science Center, then the Cumberland Science Museum on the other. Mayor Briley presided over demolition of the old Greer Stadium. You can visit Nashville.gov, look up Fort Negley. The master plan process, as well as a really wonderful cultural landscape document, are both up there, kind of helping people understand what's to come. This phase one will basically turn that Greer Stadium footprint into a really wonderful park that is now also a UNESCO site of memory. So really great piece of Nashville's history fabric. That park will include a memorial wall that celebrates and frankly commemorates the the accomplishments and legacy of the Bass Street community that some of whom, while maybe free in African American community, were also kind of commanded and directed, and some of the folks who built it were enslaved. And so there's a ton of history that's going into this. Very, very excited that as we came into Black History Month, we have Nashville's Davidson County historian for the first time is a Black historian. That is Dr. Lee Williams, and excited to have had him join us for that Fort Negley groundbreaking process. But the Friends of Fort Negley, multiple mayors in a row, getting us to this point. So that process is moving, and we hope to see some progress by next year.
Thanks a lot for the call there, Barbara. Let's take another call from Hamilton, calling in from Lebanon. You're on with Mayor Freddie O'Connell.
Hi, Mayor O'Connell. How are you?
Hey, doing well, Hamilton. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I don't mean to draw us into a discussion of national politics, but I was wondering if you had any insight into the proposed ICE facility that the federal government is looking at on Highway 109 in Wilson County, and if there's any leverage that Nashville or Nashvillians have to stop this.
No, Hamilton, it's a great question. I think I, like a lot of Nashvillians, have been following the legislative process, and I think we've been more focused on things that we think would be directly harmful from a state policy standpoint to our communities, and a lot of them take the form of unfunded mandates. So we're following a lot of that immigration-related policy that's moving through the state right now. I haven't paid as much attention to the Wilson County ICE facility specifically, but I will tell you it's been impressive to me to see Wilson County residents show up in force to express their opposition to this. And it looks like it's a mix of residents and business community members, and I think there's a real and growing recognition for a community with Mount Juliet and Lebanon all right there on these economic corridors tied to Nashville, that it would be a challenge for future economic growth for the region, much less just kind of the quality of life considerations, given how unpopular I think the federal approach to immigration enforcement has become across the country. So haven't been following it deeply, but it does seem like there is a lot of opposition to it in Wilson County.
Hamilton, really appreciate the call. On a related note, we've got Joby in East Nashville. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Correct me if not, but you're on with Mayor O'Connell.
Hi, Mayor O'Connell. I just know that ICE has been spotted around East Nashville and some of our other areas, and I am wondering what you plan to do to protect our immigrant and migrant communities at this time.
Yeah, thank you, Joby. This has been one of the ongoing challenges. I think everybody understands that. If you saw recent reporting in the Nashville Banner, some really, really troubling accounts of ICE's presence with THP. We can't really impede ICE's efforts, but I think what we've seen in other communities is very applicable here. There are a lot of organizations that have been monitoring them. We have had a hard time more recently trying to figure out what authority they might be using in what circumstances, or even how significant the presence is. Last time it was clear there was a sustained, for about a week and a half, coordinated effort with THP. This time there has not been that. We're still trying to get information, even going back to last spring, about the nature of those operations, and it has sometimes taken organizations like Turk and good journalistic enterprises to help us get information. I expect that to continue to be the case, but we are going to continue working with the state to get what information we can. In the meantime, we've got all of Metro aligned to ensure that not only do we know what's going on if there are interactions with Metro organizations, but also that people know their rights as best they can. I will give Dr. Battle a lot of credit for making sure that students, faculty, and staff through Metro schools over the past couple of years have known their rights. We've tried to make sure the same is true for people using Metro facilities, but we know how much apprehension there was during the ice storm, and I think overall we are very fortunate to have a group of community-based organizations that can work in the city to protect people and their rights as best as possible. It is a very, very challenging environment.
Thank you so much, Joby. This may end up being our last call, so apologies for others who are on the line. But Ed in Jolton, you're on with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Mayor, we live out on Bear Hollow Road. We bought this property 27 years ago. And at that time, I worked for Metro and what used to be Real Property Services. And I dealt with a lot of land acquisition right-of-ways with Public Works back then. I went to Public Works and asked them if they ever planned on doing any widening on this road, because if they were, I wasn't going to buy the property. For years, we never got salt or brine. Past few years, we've been brine. This year, we had a snowplow come in and try to clear the road off. We had trees and power lines down across the road at the bottom of a hill, and we were without electricity for 11 days, and we, the neighbors, had to get out and clear the trees off the road because we had people coming down the hill that were getting stuck. NES cleaned out Eaton's Creek, jumped over us, went to Old Hickory. But my question is, if NDOT now is going to make this a primary road between Clarksville Pike and White's Creek, something needs to be done. It's a dangerous little road. I bought a new truck in 2006 and was coming home from work, and 4 kids in a little bitty Chevy 10 pickup truck smashed my side in. It's a dangerous road. Sometimes when I-24 is bad and they shut it down, people use our road as a cut-through to get over to Clarksville Pike and go north. We rescued people and had them spend the night before because
Ed,
We
get stuck on the hill.
Ed, our time is short. We appreciate the call. It sounds like I don't know that there's some more service being requested here. Any response,
Ed,
Mayor?
thanks for that. It's Bear Hollow, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Please come out and drive it.
Yeah, we'll come take a look
You'll-
too. I want to check where it is. I know you've probably been aware of this just from your experience in Metro. Sometimes it is NDOT, but their paving program alone doesn't usually change the characteristic of roads. There's another process in planning called the Major and Collector Streets Plan, and then again, sometimes the redevelopment pattern, the community plan for an area can have an impact. But I'll do this. We'll make sure to go see if there have been any updates on Bear Hollow. We did a couple things I'll share with you about the ice storm and then snow planning generally. Last year, we made some significant upgrades and expansions to our snow routes and plow routes. And so that meant, in addition to having newer and a larger number of snow plows so we can cover more of the county, in the ice storm specifically, we had NDOT aligning very closely with NES to make sure that they could get tree clearance out of the way, especially in areas where there weren't down lines interfering, and then where there were, they could coordinate with NES. So we did have some different behaviors there, but I'll get back to you. We'll see if we can follow up for Blake on Bear Hollow in particular and plans for it.
Ed, thank you for the call. And thanks to all the callers, and always pains me to have folks we didn't get to, but the mayor will be back next month.
There's always next month.
There's always next month, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, Mayor O'Connell, for carving out time for us each month. Typically, his office, as I said, posts follow-ups that couldn't be answered live on air today, so if there are any of those, keep a lookout for that. We'll see you next month. Up next is Curious Nashville and this mysterious mound that we're going to go visit, so stay with us.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners. And the Hal Allen Clinic, specializing in minimally invasive robotic spine surgery and laser brain tumor surgery. For 40 years, the neurosurgeons of the Hal Allen Clinic have been national leaders in brain and spine surgery. And Neon, presenting Epic, Elvis Presley in concert from Baz Luhrmann, the lost footage of Elvis's 1972 residency, being shown for the first time ever in IMAX February 20th and in theaters everywhere February 27th. And the Higgins Firm, assisting clients with nursing home neglect and serious personal injury cases. Online at thehigginsfirm.com.
Did you know that Nashville Public Radio's signal reaches over 90% of Middle Tennesseans? During a natural disaster, listeners like you know that they can depend on public radio for emergency alerts and other public safety information, especially when the power grid is down. Nashville Public Radio is even more important for rural areas where public radio may be the only source for life-saving news. Go to WPLN today and make your gift in support of crucial public information.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Curious Nashville.
Curious Nashville.
Love that theme music. So we got a question about a grass-covered mound at the corner of Thompson Lane and Vultee Boulevard. It's near the airport. The iconic gold box of a building known as International Plaza is right there. Educator and sixth-generation Nashvilleian Sonia Fernandez LeBlanc is a big Curious Nashville fan, such a fan that she knew that we had slowed down on answering questions in the last few years. But she said to herself that if we ever revived the project, she was going to ask about this mound that she had just begun to notice because some brush had been cleared. So I met her out there, braving the traffic whizzing by and the dump trucks and track hoes working over the weekend at the old Vultee aircraft plant.
There's no reason why I shouldn't have noticed this, right? But for whatever reason, I was working in Berry Hill a few years ago, and I would sit here in rush hour. And one day I'm sitting in rush hour, and it's pouring down rain, and I look over, and there are these spouts with water just shooting out of them. And I'm like, that's not a hill. But now you can see it's the hill, but like up until about probably 4 weeks ago, there were bramble all along, so you couldn't actually see the hill. Now you can see the gate, but before it was tons of like overgrown shrubbery, okay? So I looked that first time, and I was like, there's like a stone wall here. And I was like, but it's just a hill. So the next time I drove by, I like looked at it more clearly, and I was like, wait a second. There are stairs, there are light poles up on top of it. Okay, and so then I started like conspiracy theorizing, because I know that this was Vultee. This was where the factory where they made bombers, because my grandfather was a draftsman there. Okay, so then I'm like, is it like some kind of like Cold War era something that they've
It almost looks like it'd be a bunker or...
A bunker!
Yeah.
So I went on Google and I looked at it from above, and you can't even tell from above. It just looks like grass. So I tried to research. There's a historical sign on the corner. I was like, maybe it's going to tell me.
Oddly, because so often the when we're doing Curious Nashville stuff, there's a historical marker involved. And there are two historical markers right here. And guess what? I don't think either of them have to do with this thing.
They don't. They have to do with some guy.
One is Tolbert Fanning, noted educator, evangelist, agriculturalist, started the Franklin College near this site where boys farmed to cover tuition. In 1855, he co-funded the Gospel Advocate, a religious journal. And then there's this other, it says, in 1858, P&N Harsh built a small brewery near Franklin College on Stones River Pike. Anyway, it was a Tennessee spring water brewery.
Oh.
Fire destroyed it in 1860, and then again in 1864. Interesting, during the Civil War. I don't think this is brewery related.
No, I don't think it is.
All right, well, let's just head over there.
Okay.
All right, so this has to be like the worst sign I've ever seen.
What does it say? Department of Water and Sewer
Services? Airport Reservoir, if I had to guess, and pump, is that P-U-M-P? You see?
Yeah, pump.
Station.
Station. It's got, like, if you watch that TV show Lost, it's got those kind of vibes. It's got those vibes.
Sonia Fernandez LeBlanc there helping really intensify our curiosity here. It really does give off Lost vibes for those who were Lost TV show fans. Well, I think we may have begun to kind of answer the question there with our close read of this highly weathered sign, but that's why we called who we did. Brent Freeman, Deputy Director of Metro Water Services, and Sonia Allman, who heads Strategic Communications. Welcome to Curious Nashville.
Hello.
All right, Brent, what is this airport reservoir?
It is a 2 million gallon concrete reservoir that makes up the majority of the earthen mound that you see.
2 million gallons?
2 million gallons.
I don't know for scale if that's a lot. Is that a lot of water?
It's quite a bit of water.
Okay.
And there is some reason that the sign is a little weathered. It is about 85 years old.
No way.
Yes. So this particular structure is no longer in service, but it was constructed in 1941.
Wow.
As part of the WPA, which was the Works Projects Administration. It was a portion of the New Deal that came about in 1935. And so in 1941, Colonel Berry, who was the administrator for WPA in Tennessee, and also the namesake for Berry Field, which became Nashville Airport.
BNA is what it stands for, Berry Field, Nashville.
Yes, indeed. He thought his airport needed a pumping station and a reservoir.
Did it? I mean, do you need water for an airport?
Yes, indeed. And given when in the opening segment you talked about some of the Cold War themes, there was a very good reason to ensure that civil infrastructure that was important to the community wasn't readily obvious from the air. Because in 1941, World War II was currently ongoing.
So it wasn't a bunker, but it was intentionally meant to not look like anything in particular.
Absolutely.
Wow. So it's not in service. Does that mean it's empty?
It is empty. The current height is just insufficient for the hydraulic grade that we need in our water distribution system.
Height as in like it wouldn't create enough pressure because it's not like up in a tower?
Absolutely. When it was constructed, that area was very, very rural.
Yeah.
And you really just needed enough water to serve the airport itself. And if planes were to catch fire, then you needed to be able to put that out.
I see.
So
you had 2 million gallons sitting right there ready to do it.
Absolutely.
So the grass growing all over it, you're saying that was on purpose to somewhat disguise what was critical infrastructure.
Part of the camouflage.
Wow. Any plans to repurpose it, or does it just sit there? I mean, I saw there's a little building, a little outbuilding to the side. Who knows what's in there with cameras and stuff. I assume are there any plans?
Not really for that location. If we were to significantly change the height of the reservoir, it would require demolition.
Yeah.
So we do have a new water pumping station that is on the property, and it currently serves the BNA.
Yeah. Why would there be, Sonia talked about the other Sonia, not Sonia Allman, who's in here. Why would there be water gushing out of it when it's pouring rain?
So there
are like pipes that are pointed toward Thompson Lane, kind of coming out what appears to be like a wall that's built around it.
Mm-hmm. So that's simply stormwater infrastructure.
I see.
So you saw rainwater coming out of those lines.
Well, not just for what it's worth. I didn't see it myself.
Okay.
But I believe Sonia. And you're saying that the airport does have a special water pumping station. Is that just because it requires so much pressure or something for a big site like that?
Well, the water pressure zone that serves the airport is fairly large. And so we serve both residents as well as large commercial interests in the airport itself. And there are actually 2 pumping stations now that serve that pressure zone.
Wow.
So we wanted some redundancy. The airport's a fairly important piece of infrastructure for Nashville.
And becoming more important by the day. I'm Blake Farmer. This is Curious Nashville. Brent Freeman and Sonia Allman from Metro Water Services are answering listener questions about the grassy mound near Volte Boulevard on airport property, which is a decommissioned reservoir, we've learned. While we've got you, we've got more water-related questions that we might be able to deal with. Sonia, let me throw a couple at you. We got a question from Catherine Hoffman who asks, what is the little house at the top of the 8th Avenue Reservoir? What is in that thing?
Actually, nothing at this point. And Catherine, I'm very excited that you know it is the 8th Avenue Reservoir. We get that question a lot. What is the big rock wall up on 8th Avenue? That was the gatehouse. And the gatehouse is what held all of the valves for the operator. So the reservoir, when it was built, had 2 sides. It held 25.5 million gallons on each side. And water from the river would go into one side where it would settle. And once the mud was settled out, the water would be weired over through a central wall to the other side to be used as the city's drinking water.
So it wasn't just a reservoir, it was a treatment facility.
Was a settling basin. So it didn't just hold water, it actually was somewhat treated. In 1912, they started adding chemicals. Chemicals were added with a burlap bag and a rowboat at the time.
Wow.
But that house, the gatehouse, is where the operator stayed to monitor. It also had a winding staircase and a very large tower, and was served as a fire outlook as well.
Wow. And of course, we have a story from 2016 we did about that reservoir cracking and flooding the neighborhood below it about that time, 1912. All right, we'll work in one more from listener Darren Duckworth. Eastbound on Spring Street, as the road passes under I-24, there's a source of water emanating from the base of the concrete structure that supports I-24 overpass, draining over to the curb onto Spring Street. Even in periods of dry weather, the area is persistently wet. Is that a spring? It is Spring Street after all, or maybe a broken water line. You know?
Well, we do now. And thankfully, because it was reported, we investigated. It was indeed a broken water line.
Real? Is this from Darren's question? Or
This is indeed from Darren's question.
Darren, you have solved a broken water line. You're getting applause from behind the glass over here. All right, so what's going on?
So it has been repaired as soon as we found out about it. So we went out to see what was going on. We did see the water. We think the water was actually splashing up on the wall as cars drove through a small indentation in the road. We took a sample of the water. It had chlorine in it, which is indicative of a water main break. So we have a 6-inch water line that has now been repaired, and problem has been solved. And thank you so much, Darren.
Wow. Curious Nashville at Work. Didn't anticipate this. Well, many thanks to Sonia Allman and Brent Freeman of Metro Water, and to Sonia Fernandez LeBlanc, and to Darren Duckworth for asking questions, going with us on this field trip, Sonia, to the old airport reservoir. If you've got questions about Middle Tennessee where maybe Google isn't going to get it, you can ask at WPLN.org/Curious Nashville. A link will be on today's show post. Love doing Curious Nashville. We want to thank you for tuning in this hour and making it such a good time with Mayor Freddie O'Connell as well. This is Nashville's a production of Nashville Public Radio. If you missed yesterday's show on our local theater scene, we got called on the carpet a bit as just residents of this town. One guest talked about how it's kind of been the same three families funding theater in this town for a long time, and it's time for others to step up. Okay, well, we'll get out there and at least take in a show. They're happening all the time. You can listen at thisisnashville.org, our podcast, your podcast app of choice, or watch at the WPLN YouTube page. Today's episode was produced by Mary Mancini and yours truly, with help from Mr. Curious Nashville himself, Tony Gonzalez. Directed by Tasha A.F. Limley, Josh Deepin working the phones and working hard today. Liv Lombardi making us look and sound good. The theme music, L'Orange and Namir Blade. You can comment, tell us what you want to hear on the show anytime. The mailbox is 615-751-2500, or you can find us on Instagram at thisisnashville_WPLN. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.
Learning new things starts with trying new things. At Harpeth Hall, girls can discover what they love and work to be what they dream. Harpeth Hall summer camps offer experiences in academics, athletics, and the arts. Registration for the 2026 summer camp season is now open. For more information, visit harpethhall.org. Harpeth Hall, where girls think critically, lead confidently, and live